All right, welcome to the next episode of Inbox Zero. So this is the show where I basically just take questions out of my inbox, answer them here, because we get quite a few of them. So I want to make sure that if I answer for one person, we can answer it for everybody, because more than one person will always have a question. So first question we're answering today, which Facebook ad generates the most leads at the lowest cost? And there's basically two answers. If your goal is lead volume, and based on the question of like the most leads, you're looking more for volume than say quality. So there's kind of two approaches we take, and they're very similar. So option one, the most volume at the lowest cost, is listing. So if you have a listing to advertise, we take that. You run a Facebook lead form ad. So that's one where they click on it and then it just auto fills out the form, they submit. You should see $1 to $3 a lead with that. Some listings go higher, but typically if the goal is volume, $1 to $3 a lead, you can get fairly consistently. And it doesn't have to be your listing. This is one that we always want to make sure that people understand is you can borrow other people's listings. We always say like ask their permission first, even if it's listed as like permission to advertise on your MLS, if that's a requirement of your MLS. Typically I still say you should do it that way. But at the end of the day, kind of do what you're allowed to based on your local jurisdictions, but it doesn't have to be your listing specifically. Now, if you're going to use someone else's listings, cherry pick the ones where the person buying it would likely have to sell their current home to get it, because now you're doubling up on your chances of getting a seller lead out of it and not just the buyer on that side. So we kind of, if you're going to be cherry picking a specific listing already, that's the route I would go. Now, if you don't have a listing, you then leverage the fact that you have MLS access and you say, get a list of homes. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. You can go by price point, which typically is a lower quality lead. So if you do like get a list of homes in this area under this price, you'll get leads, lower quality. So often what we'll do is we'll take a type of home and advertise that. So like a list of bungalows can work well, a list of homes with outdoor space. That like the homes with outdoor space actually works well, or condos with outdoor space if you're in a city. In a suburbs, the homes with big yards, big lots, that type of thing normally do pretty well. Just make sure you're using the local language for it. Like the example I always give is like if you're in Ontario and you're saying like, okay, get a list of cottages. If you go to Northern Ontario, you have to say camp, because that's how they refer to it up there. There's other parts of Canada where they call them differently. Like cottages is just like a specific term for one area. Like it could be beach house, lake house, different types of language in different areas. You have to match your ad to the language of the area that you're in so that it doesn't immediately read to someone as, okay, this is someone who's not from here. But those are the two. If we're going for low cost leads with high volume, listings, and then list of homes. And then again, just specializing that a little bit. All right, next question. How much money should I put behind boosting a post? That's actually kind of two different approaches to this. So first one, don't boost post. And by that, what I mean is don't touch the boost post button. It's great to take organic posts, put money behind them to make sure they get in front of more people, but do it through the ads manager. It gives you more flexibility, more customization, more ability to kind of really target the right people with your campaign. And so if you're just hitting the boost post, you're losing some of that and your money's not going to go as far. Like you could still get some results boosting a post. You'll just get better results going through the ads manager. Really, the only advantage of hitting the boost post button is speed. It gets it up faster, and it's a lot easier to do from like your phone. Where the ads manager, you have to use your computer. So that's one. The second part is like how much money. Like let's say we take a post, we're going to do it through the ads manager. How much money? This can vary quite a bit, audience size, things like that. Like if you're in a small town, you can probably get away with $20, $30, $40, $50 pretty easily. The larger the area you're in, the more people you're targeting, the higher you'd want to bump that up. Typically, like, so for example, what I often did when I was promoting organic content is every post we thought was worth it would get $50 to $100 for the first week. Then we would have a campaign set at about $10 a day, and our audience size for this was about 120,000. So we would do that. $10 a day, and it would cycle through our best content. So our best content's always getting recycled and put in front of people, but then each new piece of content gets pushed for like $50 to $100 for that first week. We decide, okay, did this resonate with people? Did they like it? The ones that are showing the numbers that we want to see get put into that evergreen $10 a day push that keeps going. And we found that was a pretty consistent way to keep our brand in front of people and worked pretty well for us. Next with the ads, do I have to use the housing category? If it's related to like buying a house, it has to be. There's not really, I mean, there are a couple like workarounds to a degree, but only using, because like sometimes you get caught in a housing category when you really shouldn't be. And in those cases, there are some workarounds. You don't want to be doing any workarounds when you actually should have it on. Like if you're advertising a listing, you have to use it. You can still use it strategically. Like for example, if you live on a coast, live by a lake, like in Toronto, we don't typically put the center point of the radius on top of the house. We might put that down in the water. So we'll look at like, okay, where the buyer's likely to come from. If going so wide would go to an area we don't think is realistic, we might burn some of that 15-mile radius in the lake. We've also done this with like a client where realistically they knew the buyer was coming from like a 1-mile stretch inland from the ocean. So we just put 14 miles out in the water, 1 mile in the land, and that works well. The other option is if you're trying to hyper target, because sometimes what happens with housing category is they just see words like buying a house or something like that and assume it's housing category, even though it's not. And so the way around that is to run very obviously non-real estate videos, like create a video that's like, here's my 3 favorite coffee shops in town. And then you hyper target that ad, and it won't be housing category because it's not related to housing, it's about coffee shops. And then you're building a custom audience of 3-second views of anyone there. Then when you run the housing category, you run that to people who watch that 3 seconds, and that can allow you to hyper target your housing ads to people from that initial video. So that is an easy way around it. You just have to run that other ad the whole time, or it's basically not going to work as well. So that's one that we focus on, is if we're having trouble getting something because it's getting disapproved for housing, but it shouldn't be, we'll build that retargeting audience from a non-real estate video and then run the housing category to that group. Last one, what's the best way to reach my database on Facebook? 2 ways. One, use your personal profile, connect with them, talk to them, engage with them, just be part of that relationship building side of it. Now on the Facebook ad side, get their email address and their phone number, and you can actually create like a CSV file. So you can actually just export that from your database, upload it to Facebook in the ads manager in the audience section, and you can run an ad. So what Facebook will do is they'll take the email addresses and phone numbers you gave it, match it to accounts on Facebook, and then you can actually run ads specifically to them. Typically, I would try to upload at least 500 because if you upload too many, there might not be enough matches to run the ad. Obviously, the 2,000 is at least ideal, but even if you just have a few hundred, you can typically make that work. They don't tell you how many people match anymore. Back when they did, we typically found if you upload your database, you get about a 60% match rate. If you're targeting consumers, we found if you're targeting like real estate agents, so say you're like a brokerage recruiting, or you're doing like something with a downline, you want to target agents in the area. What we've typically found there is that you have closer to a 40% match rate. And that's because what happens is like a lot of realtors, you have their work email, but they originally signed up for Facebook with their personal email. So Facebook is set up through their personal, but you have their work email. So when you go to do that match, it might not be as effective. So there's other ways to target agents, which I'll certainly talk about in a future one because I get that question all the time. So when that one comes in next, I'll put it in. But yeah, so best way to reach your database, friend them, engage with them, and then upload your CSV file to the ads manager and just run ads direct to them. But that's it for Inbox Zero this week. We answered those 4 questions. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer in future videos, drop it in the comments or shoot me an email, andrew@justsellhomes.com, and I'm happy to answer them. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have a great day.